on, you bastard!
Brought to you by supporters who probably have better taste than this schmuck.
The 07 movie was a massive paradigm shift for Transformers collecting. Things changed overnight. For years they were dealing with big chunky designs, primarily from the Cybertron era, but now they were dealing with weird and wacky and panel-y things. And they definitely had some growing pains. There were definitely some issues starting out. Nowhere is that more emblematic than with Megatron, a design that didn't really turn into anything anyway. Many consider him one of the worst designs from the movie, and consequently, I guess that might make him the worst Legends figure, sort of. See, this one's in a bit of a weird position. Is he bad because of who he is, or is he bad because of who he'll become? In vehicle mode, 07 Megatron is probably one of the biggest out of the bunch of the 07 Legends, but that's basically because he's splayed out across the table. To an extent, I understand. The alt mode just does not make any sense. It's a space thing, a space jet that doesn't really figure out how the robot mode is supposed to transform. Everything just crushes into the chest and the wings just splay out. Already they're dealing with a lot of growing pains in getting the movie designs to work at the small scale, but then add this f***er in the mix? Yeah, I kinda get it. This is a very difficult design to get right at a scale where they had no idea what they're doing, so I kinda get it. But at the same time, this alt mode just ain't the greatest. It's not that they didn't try, it's that they just could not pull it off. I recognize the restrictions they were stuck with, but I also recognize that this just was never gonna work. I mean, it's just legs, it's just arms, it's just the nose cone there, it's just a space thing. They didn't even hide the head. I mean, it's not as bad as, say, Legends Jazz or something, but it is still pretty bad. I mean, I don't need to explain why this is bad. Nothing's tabbed in, it's just ball joint, ball joint, ball joint, ball joint, and they're all just sitting there. I like that they incorporated some extra detail at the back there, but really, it's a robot doing yoga on the ground. What you see is what you get. It's just not great. And you can see with others like Optimus Prime, they were able to do it a lot better when they had a proper alternate mode to use. But this wasn't one of those cases. This was just a case where they said, f it, we gotta do whatever we can. And they did do whatever they could. And so, I understand, but I can't really cut it some slack. Plus, come on, visible heads? Nah, that's not acceptable. I don't accept that at all. And I know this figure is at a disadvantage because already I'm not the biggest fan of this design. But Blockies was able to work on its own merits, so I can like the design in some instances, and this just isn't one of them. Let's just move on. Size-wise is roughly 11 centimeters wide and 9 centimeters long. And size-wise, here he is next to a standard Legion figure, which he essentially is, but you can see how sprawled out he is. A standard core class figure, a standard modern Micromaster, a standard modern Minicon, a not-so-standard Lego minifigure, and crumbs. The transformation basically works exactly how you'd expect. You can see where all the parts are, it does what you'd expect it to do. The legs rotate down like that, panels peg into the sides of the legs, rotate the waist around, yes, it's actually got a waist swivel. Rotate the arms down, and you can hear they sound really icky. I'll get into more details about that later. Fold down the nose cone on the back, and rotate the head into place, and you are done. Now when it comes to robot mode, I'd actually say this does it reasonably better. It's not perfect by any means, I mean it still looks pretty gangly, but it's more on the money than the vehicle mode was. You can tell this was the priority of the two. And I mean, understandable, if the alt mode is basically nothing as is, of course you're going to prioritize the robot mode. I mean, hey, at least it turned out better than Optimus Prime. I'm going to be covering him shortly, but yeah, the difference is night and day. Megatron takes the cake here. The head sculpt is pretty mushed and a bit weird, but it's reasonably accurate for the size. It's definitely more concept art-esque than the final film, but I don't really think it's that bad. I've seen way worse head sculpts in the 2007 Legends class price points. The torso is painted very lovely, and they've even got sort of an all-spark chamber there, which is quite funny. That's 2 for 207 Megatrons with that feature recently, which I do find quite humorous. But you got lovely black highlights and gold highlights, and the black highlights also continue to the arms here. It is quite lovely. You even get black highlights on the legs. This thing is really well painted for the size. Articulation's actually a bit better than what you'd expect. The head is on a ball joint, so you get some nice movement there, though mostly from the transformation. Ball jointed hips and a waist swivel thanks to the transformation. Hello my baby, hello my honey, hello my ragtime gal, but why haven't I moved the arms? Because you can hear them. The rubber sounds very diseased. You can hear it creaking and creaking and creaking. Don't know if you can hear it through this microphone because it's all the way back there and the camera's all the way over here, but this is very bad, and I am doubly concerned about these bits. You see, I don't hate this figure, or at least I'm not concerned with this figure, because for now, it is pretty good. It's not about what it does now. It's actually about what it does later. This is the Megatron from the 2-pack that came with Jazz, and he's disintegrated. Megatron has rubberized materials on the head and the arms, and you can see on this version, it's completely dried up and disintegrated. You want to see the rest of the arm? It's that. That used to be rubber, and now it's hard plastic. And this feels like it's gonna have the same issue later down the line. Already the plastic's starting to yellow a little bit from when I first got it. It's not visible on camera, but I can definitely see it in person. This is likely the future for this. It's very similar to the Scorponok I reviewed last series, where the tail cracked to absolute shit. Except here, it's arms and head, so it's much worse pieces. Like, it's so brittle that it just comes apart like that. You can see it just cracking to pieces. That's awful. And that's the big reason I wanted to review this guy now rather than later. I'm not really that invested in Megatron, but he is a ticking time bomb. Eventually I won't be able to mess with him. Eventually I won't be able to do a video on him. And as such, I have to do it now before it's too late. So on his own, he has a shit alt mode, an okay transformation, and a pretty decent robot mode. But with the context of his materials, he's unacceptable. Will he get to the horrible state of the Frozen version? Maybe not. But I'm not risking it. I'm getting this done now. So let's finish this off. He is 5 centimeters wide and 8 centimeters tall. And for size comparisons, here he is next to a standard Legion figure, which he is, and now he's sort of shrunk, since all the parts just mushed in together. He's gone to a much smaller than usual one. A standard core class figure, a standard modern Micromaster, a standard modern Minicon, a not so standard Lego minifigure, and crumbs. I'm finding it a bit difficult to grade this particular figure, simply because, at the moment, it's okay. But who's to say later down the track? Disintegration is a very frustrating part of toy reviewing. How do you take that into account? How do you accurately judge and fairly judge a toy? But even that aside, it's just not that great. The rubber mode is serviceable, but the vehicle mode just does not try. Even by 07 movie standards, the issues of the time really show with this figure. I don't want to act too harsh on it because mine is in pretty good condition. But when I take into account all of the issues it has, and take into account the fact that I do have a broken one already, I can't cut it some slack. I don't want to judge this figure too poorly because it was $7 at the time, but I feel I kind of have to. It's not just me who's had breakage issues. It is a lot of people. And as a result, I'm sorry, I just can't rate it very highly. But perhaps there's more to be seen within the 07 movie line. Perhaps there's figures that are a lot better. So let's stay in this era for a little bit. Let's switch focus from Decepticons to Autobots. Can we find love within 2007 Legends, beyond Blackout, which I already really love? We'll have to see. So, see you tomorrow.